When I bought that old farmhouse for $2,000, I thought I was buying peace. After 23 years in the force, half of it chasing nightmares through Chicago's darkest alleys, I wanted silence. I wanted wide fields, clean air, and mornings where I didn't have to wear a badge or carry a gun. The house sat on the edge of a forgotten town in northern Missouri, a place called Cold Creek. The locals said it had been empty since the 1980s. I didn't care. I had Duke, my old German shepherd, and the quiet. That was all I needed. But sometimes peace is just the calm before the truth digs its way out. If you believe that real justice can never stay buried, subscribe right now. Because this story, it's not just about discovery. It's about what happens when silence becomes a crime. The house looked like a memory someone tried to forget. Paint peeling, roof sagging, porch eaten by rot. But I loved it. I started repairs the first week, cleaning out the barn, fixing broken windows and patching holes in the roof. Duke ran wild through the fields, barking at everything that moved. He hadn't been that happy in years. The villagers weren't as welcoming. The gas station attendant looked at me with the same suspicion every time. The diner waitress never smiled. The mailman always dropped letters at the edge of my driveway, never close to the porch. I thought maybe they didn't like outsiders. Small towns can be like that, but there was something else, a quietness in their eyes, like fear pretending to be politeness. One evening, after fixing the front door hinges, I heard Duke barking furiously near the woods behind the property. I followed his voice with a flashlight. The sun had just set, and the air smelled of wet earth and pine. Duke was digging by an old stone well, half covered in moss. When I got closer, I saw something wedged between the stones, a rusted metal box wrapped in what looked like an old cloth. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, black and white. Each one showed the same place, the well. In some, there were people, women, men, even children, faces blurred like they were caught off guard. One picture had a date, 1979, and scrawled beneath it, in fading ink, "They never left." I froze. The air around me felt heavier. Duke whined and started scratching the dirt near the well again. I shined the flashlight and saw the ground wasn't flat. It was disturbed, uneven, like someone had buried something there. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to the town hall, pretending I wanted historical information about my land. The clerk, an old woman with silver hair, hesitated when I told her the address. "That property should have never been sold," she said quietly. "You'd best stay out of what's under that soil." "What's under it?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just whispered, "Ask Pastor Haynes." The church was at the center of town, small, white, its steeple crooked. The pastor looked like he'd seen too much of life. When I mentioned the farmhouse, his face turned pale. "That house you belonged to the Lamberts," he said. "A good family. Gone one night. No one found them. The sheriff at the time closed the case, said they left town." "What year?" 1979. That same date from the photo. I drove home with my stomach in knots. Duke met me at the gate, tail low, ears back. He barked once, then ran toward the well. He started digging again. This time, I helped. The soil gave way easily. My hands trembled as I uncovered a layer of wood, rotted, thin, a box, maybe a crate. When it broke apart, a smell hit me, the smell of old, trapped death. Inside were bones, small ones, a child's size. I fell backward, gasping for air. Duke whined and pawed at the edge, as if trying to uncover more. I covered the hole and called the sheriff. Sheriff Amos Dillard showed up an hour later. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of calm that only comes from control. I explained what I found. He listened without emotion, then walked to the well, glanced down, and said, "You sure this wasn't just animal bones?" "I was a cop for 2 decades, I said. "I know the difference." He sighed. "Well, I'll send someone to take a look." But let me give you some advice, officer to officer. Some things in small towns are better left alone. That phrase again. Better left alone. He took the box of photos, said he'd file them, and drove off. I never saw them again. Days passed. No updates, no investigators, nothing. When I called the sheriff's office, the deputy told me there was no record of any evidence from that property. I felt that old heat in my chest again. The same fire I'd felt back when corrupt cops walked free in Chicago because of technical errors. I knew what this was. A cover-up. I started digging into old news archives. The Lamberts hadn't just disappeared. The father, Thomas Lambert, had accused the previous sheriff of stealing money meant for the town's flood relief fund. 2 weeks later, the entire family vanished. The case was ruled as voluntary disappearance. I also found something else. Sheriff Amos Dillard was the son of that same sheriff. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. That night, I sat on the porch thinking about what kind of man covers for his father's crimes. Duke lay beside me, restless. Then, just before midnight, I saw headlights stop near my driveway. A car, engine off. No one came out, just silence. The next morning, my shed was burned to the ground. All my tools gone. My fence cut. On the porch, one of the photos I'd given the sheriff, left face up. The one that said, "They never left." I knew what they were telling me. Stop digging, leave. But I'd buried too many truths in my life already. Not this time. I reached out to an old friend from the Bureau, Rachel Moore, a forensic analyst. I sent her the pictures, the location, and samples from the bones I'd reburied secretly before Dillard arrived. 2 weeks later, she called me back. "They're human, female, estimated age 8 to 10 years old. You need to get out of there, Tom. Whoever did this, they're still around." I didn't get out. I set up cameras instead, hidden in trees, in the barn, on the porch, and I waited. It took 4 nights. Duke started growling before I heard the footsteps. 3 men, flashlights, moving toward the well. One of them whispered, "Grab the rest before daylight." I turned on the floodlights and stepped out with my shotgun. "Evening, Sheriff." He froze. The other 2 men, his deputies, raised their hands. Dillard tried to smile. "You don't understand, Tom. That land belongs to my family, always has. They knew things that could ruin us. You don't want to end up like them." I recorded everything. When the sun rose, I drove straight to the FBI field office in Kansas City. Rachel met me there. The footage was enough to open a full investigation. Within a month, the entire Cold Creek Sheriff's Department was dismantled. They found remains of 12 people buried around my property, 6 of them confirmed to be the Lambert family. The news spread fast. The town turned against Dillard's family name. Every secret they'd buried came crawling out. I stayed in the house, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of duty. Duke still roams the fields every morning, sniffing around the old well. Sometimes he stops, looks back at me and barks once, as if to remind me that he was the one who started it all. The villagers still avoid me, but I see something different in their eyes now. Not fear, not hate, relief. Justice doesn't always come from a badge. Sometimes it comes from a man who's tired of silence and a dog who refuses to stop digging. If you believe no secret stays buried forever, hit like, subscribe, and tell me, what would you have done if your dog had uncovered what the whole town tried to hide for decades?